Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bad for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet, presented to you by Betway. I am your co-host, Adam Peddle, joined alongside my other co-host, Nicholas Paleolog. Arbitration deadline has come and gone. There's some interesting names that have gotten their arbitrations, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and some other guys who are going to a hearing, like Kyle Tucker. What is the difference there? And some other guys that have a little bit more differences. We're going to talk about all that and more, and as well some recent signings, like Verlander to the Giants, who saw that one coming. And then this happened on Tuesday morning, I believe, but Brent Rooker going back to the A's. We haven't had a chance to talk about that, so we're going to talk about that in this one and much more. But before we do, Nick, how are you doing today?
It's been a stressful 24 hours, man. I'll address the elephant in the room right off the top. I imagine that there's a couple people from Blue Jays today who are coming and checking out this podcast right now. Things haven't been going great over there. As many of you know, we run another separate YouTube channel, a separate brand called Blue Jays Today, which was significantly bigger than this brand right here. We've been doing that for 4 to 5 years at this point, and yesterday, for the first time in Blue Jays Today history, we lost our hacking virginity. So that's the situation going on right there. Wanted to address that because I imagine that there's a couple people clicking into this wondering what's happening. And of course, we have to get our YouTube channel back really soon to report on this goddamn Vladdy news, right?
Yep.
His arbitration, they didn't have to do the whole legal lawyer thing that they did last year and fight over $1 million. This time around, they both agreed upon a number, which I think is a great and promising sign for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s potential future with the Toronto Blue Jays, that number being $28.5 million. So a hefty chunk of change, but honestly, if you bat for a 940 OPS again, I am totally content with that.
Yeah, it's a very good number. That's the third highest one-year arbitration of any player in MLB history. The two.
Who were the other ones? Soto?
Can you also guess who else? Soto
I'm
and?
thinking, I'm trying to... Soto and...
Think about big money players.
Yeah. Ohtani?
Ohtani.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure with Ohtani, because he was obviously came over from Japan, if there was something different with him, but that does make sense.
That does make the sense, right? So, hey, Vladdy, third biggest contract in history, arbitration contract in history, which tells you something.
Probably going to be the third biggest contract in history ever, right? When it does come time for extensions.
Exactly, right? So with that being said, I mean, first of all, the $28.5 million is a very solid number. I think well-deserving for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But I'm really excited as a Blue Jays fan because what that means is we don't have to spend the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks talking about this 1 year or how much you're going to make in that 1 year. Instead, let's talk about how much you're going to make for the next 12 years as a Toronto Blue Jay.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important.
And honestly, too, I hope that this is indicative as to how the management is going about addressing these things. Last year, they were fighting over $1 million. And you know what? Okay, I get it because Guerrero wasn't performing at the level I think that a lot of us had hoped for at that period of time.
Yeah.
So, we get on the management for that a lot, but let's remember he wasn't all-star, getting MVP votes flat. He was just kind of a good baseball player, and that was that, right? But this past year, you really saw what it is that he's truly capable of once again, and I think it's become abundantly clear to the Toronto Blue Jays and to Blue Jays fans especially that this is somebody that you want to build your team around. I hope that the management is realizing it's all right, you know what? We know we're going to have to shell out the bag right here.
Sure.
Would it be nice to save $2 million this year? Yeah, but is it really worth it? Do we want to fight this guy over this? What we need to do right now is get to the table, start going back and forth on an extension offer because he gave you the deadline, which was spring training. And if he doesn't have an extension offer in spring training, he is going to hit free agency.
Yeah, and apparently he gave you the number as well and what he wants to sign for. So you know exactly what's going on here. So what you're doing as Blue Jays, let's say the discrepancy was $2 million. If there ever was $2 million, $1 million, whatever it might have been, what you're doing with that extra couple million, you're just giving that to Vlad to buy his time.
That's right.
You're buying his time
and
to negotiate.
It's one of those in good faith type things too, where it's okay, you know what? Maybe we could argue with you about how it's this production is more. Fuck it. Well, this is at the end of the day, we like you. We need you to be here for the next 12 years.
Right.
Let's just be nice.
And if you're spending $400 million, $450, who knows how much Vladdy's going to get
What's another
paid?
$2?
What's another $2 million? Like, really, in the grand scheme of things, it won't matter. So part of me as a Blue Jay fan, I read into that, and you don't really want to read in too much if you're a Blue Jays fan, but I'm going to anyways. I read into that, and I go, okay, this is obviously a good sign that they're willing to just, like, get that arbitration done, which they haven't done in the past. Granted,
yes.
you make a good point. Like, he did play a lot better.
He wasn't the same.
Wasn't the same, but still, it makes me feel a lot better that they're willing to get it done. And now we heard from Hector Gomez, and granted, take whatever he says with a grain of salt, because he does say a lot of things. Sometimes it's
takes
true,
a lot of
sometimes
shots.
it's not. Takes a lot of shots. He knows a lot of people. Maybe these people are giving him good information, bad information, whatever. All we do know, and actually he was right about this, when he came out and talked about how the Blue Jays offered him around $340 and they made an offer to him. It then came out, many weeks later that was true.
It was confirmed,
so take this maybe with more of a grain of salt or less of a grain of salt. He does say that the Blue Jays are making a second contract offer, which I think you don't even need Hector Gomez to really, predict that or know that's true, because you have until spring training to make another offer.
Well, if they're not doing
it, then they're
what
failing.
What the fuck are you
exactly
doing? So you got to expect them to do that. I think the biggest new information for me about what Hector Gomez came out and said is that, instead of it being $340 million, and he didn't give an exact number,
right.
He said that this offer should be a lot closer to what Vladdy's looking for. Now, it's been reported that he is looking for something like a $450, maybe even a $500 million contract offer, which, let's face it, is pretty crazy.
That is nuts.
I don't know. Again, if it's that high, I'll be honest, folks, I don't know if they're gonna get it done.
Yeah,
this
I hear you.
But if it's closer to $450 million, it's like I think that you can start to work something out there, and kind of come to the table and negotiate with this thing. And it does sound like the Toronto Blue Jays are willing to do so. I would hope that after that information of the initial contract offer got out at the $340, I'm hopeful that they kind of saw the pushback from the fan base, because that's been a real thing, right? It's like the fan base, I think, has been the loudest that it's been for years, honestly, right now. And there is serious pushback here, and people are legit when they say, if you don't extend Guerrero, I am not going to another Toronto Blue Jays game
100%.
until, you guys are gone. So I think that, or at least I hope that they are starting to realize that, holy shit, yes, Guerrero's a player and we need him to be competitive, but if we actually want to have people watch us, this guy needs to stay here.
100,000%. And it even goes into the next free agency that you go into. Like, you think you can't get anybody now? Dude, well, if Vladdy walks, you're screwed. Correct. You're not getting anybody for a very, very long time. The whole problem this whole offseason was the fact you didn't have Vladdy locked up. And I thought, and you thought, we should just get Vladdy locked up right away so that we can go into these negotiations with these bigger stars and be like, hey, we got Vladdy
have
locked
at least
down here.
Something to be like, here you go. You can play with this guy for your time here.
Exactly. And as a Blue Jay fan, all I wanted was a Vladdy extension, because even if this offseason sucked, if you got a Vladdy extension, I could be hopeful for the next year's
That's the thing.
Offseason,
right? At least we know the direction of this team is, well, as long as Vladdy's on, healthy and playing well, we have something here.
Absolutely.
And we can build off of that, and right now, that's why it's so scary, right? It's like right now, we don't know the future. We don't. It feels like it's so far out of our control, if you're the Toronto Blue Jays.
It's like, I know what that feeling's like.
I know that feeling as well, right? But like I feel like that feeling is very similar to how I look at this baseball team when there is no Guerrero, and it's feeling like Bo Bichette is as good as gone next year, right? Like, what is that identity? Who are we? What am I going to be watching? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has got to be here for so many different reasons, to convince other free agents to be more competitive, and again to give the fan base something to get fucking excited about.
Absolutely. I mean, I could start buying into a reality with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the next window, because then I look around and I'm like, okay, well, what's the next window going to look like? Yeah, Bo Bichette's going to be gone. George Springer is going to be aging and gone. And you have some pitchers that might be gone, like Kevin Gausman and all these guys. But you still have, Barrios, if he accepts his player option. That's a big thing, too, right? If you want Barrios to accept the player option, you need something here to convince him to stay here. And it all depends on how he's performing, too. But you got Barrios, Bowden Francis, if he's a guy. Is Alek Manoah going to come back and be healthy? You got Yariel Rodriguez. Now you got Andres Jimenez. You got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., obviously. And then what about these younger guys? What about Aurelvis Martinez? Are you going to sign Anthony Santander? Like, now you start to shape up this window that looks a little bit more enticing than it did before Vladdy.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think that it's like, it feels very similar to me, like if you extend him, him to almost, it's like you're starting a second window.
That's it.
Where it's, I think back to when he first came up.
Yeah.
Right. And when he first came up, it's like, oh, the window's opening right now.
Right.
And then what did you see, right? We went out and we did get Hyun-Jin Ryu, and we got, Springer and we started, we built up, and we had a couple years of competitiveness there. Now, we were hoping that those years would continue on, and it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, honestly, the right thing to do right now, like, you've missed out on a lot of the big free agents, okay?
Right,
so
right.
assuming that continues, you extend Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably going to have a bad year next year, and you accept that, right? But you use that year to shed some money, to find out who is young and who is good and who can have a future on this team. That's
correct.
And then it's like, we're starting again, basically.
Correct.
And it's like, then you can start making the additions next offseason, like, if somebody's similar to a Santander, well, that's the new George Springer.
Right,
and this is the new Kevin Gausman, and it's like, we're opening the window up again in what should be presumably Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s prime. Because let's not forget, it's like, he's had these incredible seasons. The guy's still only 26 right now.
Exactly.
And it's like, who knows how good he's going to be when he's 28 or 29, like in the peak of his powers.
The reason why Vladdy gets paid so much money, and I know there's a lot of people out there like, people have pushback against paying Vladdy a lot of money because the inconsistencies. Maybe it's, the people are worried about his his fitness or whatever. But like, here's the point. With Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's a special talent, and I see him having 3, maybe 4 windows of his career. And what I mean by that is, like, every 5 years, you could have a 20-year career. Like, that's when he first came up, he has a potential for a 20-year career.
Could be, yeah.
He had the first 5 years. He showed insane potential, MVP 2, MVP 6, many great years, some down years, of course, but that's some growing pains right there. Then you're entering the second window, and he's still going to be in his prime. It's late 20s. Mm-hmm. And then the third window is the early 30s, and then the late window, which is for these superstar Hall of Fame guys.
You got to hope.
You got to hope, right? Not too many people make it there, but, you're Nelson Cruz's of the world, and, in pitching side of things, you're Justin Verlander's. Like, there's a fourth window of question mark, which not a lot of people get to. So that's why I said maybe 4 windows. But there at least will be 3 windows of Vladdy, and you have 3 windows to compete in if you sign him here.
And I'll put it as simply as this, man. I think it can even be boiled down even more in the fact that when you look at some of these other players on the free agent market, now Juan Soto's different.
Yeah,
because he is kind of the same boat as Guerrero and even better, right? But somebody like a Pete Alonso, for instance. Pete Alonso hasn't got signed yet, which I do think is kind of crazy because he has been phenomenal at baseball, better than Vladdy actually since he came up when you look at the career numbers, which is wild to say. But the reason that he hasn't got paid is that everybody thinks he's already had his best season.
Right.
Whereas the difference with Guerrero is, if you ask anybody that knows baseball, I think that they tell you that the best year could still be out there.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
And that is why. Exactly. Yeah. And that is why it's like, okay, we can convince ourselves to pay $450 or even more $1 million to this guy, because you're not paying for what he's already done. You're actually paying for what is still to come. Whereas with Alonso and with Santander and Bregman, it feels like, you're kind of paying for what they already did with another team.
Yeah.
But with Vladdy, there should still be time to maybe see you win MVP one day.
Yeah, and maybe it's recency bias, but when I watched Vladdy last year, I really saw major strides. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves, but I saw it in his mentality, right? When we watch Blue Jays baseball every effing day of the season, you start to understand and you see the growth there, maturity growth, a team leadership growth, a calmness at the plate, not pressing anything, and that obviously that came with the confidence that he was having when he was hitting the ball well and having success in 2024. And I want more of that. I think we're going to see more of that maturity for the next who knows how many years.
I love the leadership aspect, man, and I think that's a super underrated part of just sports in general. You got to have the team camaraderie, but you also have to have a respect with it as well. It's like we can be, and I think early on, people respected Guerrero's talents and everything like that, but early on you saw a lot of the team camaraderie with Vladdy, and I think that's why at the time people were kind of complaining about, this seems too fun. Right. It's like we're just having fun, and it's kind of silly. But I get it in the sense that it felt like Guerrero didn't command the respect necessarily as I think he did last year. And I think that you kind of saw him start to mature into somebody that it's like you do want to play with, you do want to be around. There's still that fun team camaraderie, but there's just like an aura of respect around him where it's like if you're new to this ball club, or even if you're an experienced veteran, you look at Vladdy and you go, okay, if that guy shuts up and gets to work, I shut up and get to work. If that guy is locking in, I lock in. And I think that he really took that next step, and we were waiting to see, is it going to be Bo Bichette that takes the next step in a leadership role? Is it going to be Guerrero? I think it's pretty clear based off of last season who ended up becoming that leader of the Toronto Blue Jays. And, now that we've seen it, and we know that it's like, okay, if we ever was to appoint a captain in baseball, it would be him. I don't want to let my captain hit fucking free agency.
I know. And what we're all talking about here is a beautiful reality if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. eventually does sign with the Toronto Blue Jays. But if he doesn't, then
what are we? Where are we? What are we doing?
We're at a pivot right now. We're at a fork in the road right now. And, one of these forks, I guess you could, these tongs could be what Harold Reynolds says, and Harold Reynolds, shout out Harold Reynolds from the Hot Stove on the MLB Network. He's had some very questionable opinions in his days, but he suggests that if they don't get a deal done, he's almost confident and certain that he will be traded before the beginning of the next year, and that is a completely different reality than what we're speaking of. No more signing good free agents the following year. No more leadership on your team. No more identity. No more vision. It's rebuild. We figure it out when we get there.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a reality? I personally don't.
I'll tell you right now, it's a reality. Sure, it could happen. But I don't see that necessarily going down, right? Like we do this. It feels like we do this every year with another guy.
Oh, for sure.
And I guess you could make the argument that something similar did just happen with Kyle Tucker, and because of that, and Kyle Tucker has actually been better than Vladdy has in his career so far. So I guess you could say like, okay, well, sometimes this does happen.
Yeah.
But it just feels like this scenario with Guerrero. I don't know. I think he's too close to the Toronto Blue Jays fan base and too close to everything. Like we started this thing off by saying like fans are angry right now, and do you know how fucking pissed fans are gonna be if you trade Guerrero? Like,
bro, I won't go to a game. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to a baseball unless I'm getting paid to go. But
Yes.
We'll see when we get there. But like, I literally am not going to go on my own accord.
I agree, right? Like, I don't think I'd be able to forgive them. Now, obviously, I mean, like, I would prefer you trade him rather than you play it out and then don't extend him and he walks in free agency, because who knows, maybe, those nice young prospects is the next Guerrero or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it would hurt. I get it. It just feels like one of those things that I don't think Ross Atkins or Mark Shapiro would ever really pull the trigger on.
No.
And honestly, like if they don't get an extension done, then I think the most likely situation that's going to happen is he's going to start the season with the Jays. We're going to see how it goes, and then probably he's going to finish the season with the Jays and hit free agency. Now, I think that there's a higher likelihood if they don't extend him, that they would trade him at the trade deadline, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I think you just have a better understanding as to where the team is, and I'm sure that there would be some other playoff teams out there that are like, oh shoot, Judge just went down. Like, we need a guy now, and they're really going to spend. But to trade him before the season, it feels unlikely.
Plus, they got to fill out the seats for the first 3 months of the season.
Exactly.
Or 4 months of the season.
That's the thing. Like,
no
one's going to fucking go, dude.
No one's going.
That's really what it comes down to. Whereas, like, for the Houston Astros, for instance, trading away Kyle Tucker, I can still convince myself that the Astros are going to be a good baseball team. Yeah. Like, I'm angry that you traded away Kyle Tucker if I'm a Houston Astros fan.
Sure.
But we still got Yordan. We still got Altuve. We still got Framber Valdez.
You got back Isaac Paredes. I know he's no Kyle Tucker, but there's something I could get behind.
Exactly. Here, it's like that division. Like we could still fucking win that division, right? Like I'm still going to baseball games right there. But for the Blue Jays, like to win 74 and finish last year, and then to trade away your best player.
That's the thing, is people forget, especially, and not to make a shot at Americans here, but people do forget that Toronto is a big market team. Like, people seem to just forget we're one of the biggest cities in North America and we have a lot of money. Like, Imagine if the Yankees just traded everyone away. Everyone would be like, what's going on?
I think
It's the
from
same
a
thing with the Blue Jays.
like a population standpoint, we're either second or third,
Right.
behind New York or LA. We might even be ahead of LA. I'm not sure. It depends how they calculate it, but we're right up there from a population standpoint. So
I know, and it's like people forget that. It's like we're not just going to let him go. Like we're not willing to do that. We're not like the early Blue Jays in Toronto. Toronto's growing into a large market across all 4 major sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And honestly, it's even different than LA and New York too, because as we know, assuming and hoping we can get our Blue Jays Today channel back, there's a lot of people that follow that from Vancouver or from the East Coast or from Saskatchewan,
right?
Or it's
all
of
country,
it's all
guys.
of fucking Canada, and Canada is going to be pissed if Guerrero doesn't stay put. So right now, I guess to really conclude that whole conversation, I'm feeling good that the arbitration got done.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good that we're hearing reports that they're offering another contract that's going to be closer to what he's looking for. But I don't have a lot of faith in this management.
No.
So I'm feeling better than I felt yesterday, but there's still a lot of hoops that need to be jumped through right here, and I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that they've realized that this is necessary.
I know. I really hope so, too. And if I were to bet my life, I do think the most likely scenario is we just walk into the season with just that ARB contract. That's it.
Yeah, probably.
That's it.
Which is, again, we're in a better spot than we were yesterday, but it's probably still more likely that they fuck it up.
Absolutely.
That is where we're at right there, everybody. Let us know your thoughts about all that in the comments down below. Let's give a quick shout out to Betway, the sponsor of Bad for Baseball. You got some lines for this weekend. Are we doing pack?
Well, of course we're doing Packers,
so,
you know. The last podcast before, Wildcard Weekend, of course we got to do the Green Bay Packers. Right now, they are the heavy underdogs right now. 2.85 is the money line. Philadelphia Eagles, 1.44. Is Jalen Hurts playing? Do you know if Jalen Hurts is playing?
I haven't heard anything, but
they have to play Jalen
Hurts,
Hurts,
they're gonna
right?
Now the whole thing, it's the concussion protocol,
right?
So he's got to clear it, and I should look it up afterwards, but I don't know if he's cleared it or not. I think that this is one of those things though, where even if you're like he's a little bit on the edge, someone's gonna step in and somebody's gonna clear it because they need him, so I would assume that he is going to be playing this game.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I know you're a Packers fan, so I'm interested to hear where you're at in this. The spread right now they have is plus 5.5 for the Packers at 1.9. That feels pretty good. I think it's gonna be a lot closer than people think.
It should be,
but still.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. We've lost the last 2 games in a row, and so a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is a one and done squad," and I get it. I do. I'm concerned. But the thing is, all the losses this year that we've had, they're within 2 points.
Right.
Seriously.
Right.
That's you look back at this, and we lost to the Eagles in week 1,
right.
2 points.
There we go. That's a good spread then.
You could definitely take the spread feeling confident. I, of course, being a Packers fan, is going to sprinkle a couple bucks down on the money line.
Right, of course.
And honestly, I'm just going to cite last year what happened. We were the 7th seed. We went up against the 2 seed, the Dallas Cowboys, walked into their home park, and just fucking took it to them.
Right.
So I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen again, but we're a better squad this year than we were last year. I don't know. I think that there is definitely a good chance that we do still win this football
for sure,
game.
Absolutely. But I will say Eagles are. We all agree.
As well.
Eagles are phenomenal, 14-3. But we'll see what happens. That is going to be this Sunday. Everybody, make sure you check it out and make sure to hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code on the screen right here, or click the link in the description to join the action. It must be 19 plus and available in Ontario only. Please play responsibly. I can't believe I memorized that. We got locked out of our account, and I usually read it off the screen. But we've said it so many times.
That's the thing. You said it so many times. You know it, man. You got to trust yourself.
Got to trust yourself, right? So
let's talk about some other arbitrations that aren't going as well right now. Now, I brought him up a couple times. Kyle Tucker over there with the Chicago Cubs. He's that big acquisition this offseason. I think the people forget how big of an acquisition he actually is, because when he's on the field, we're talking MVP votes. This guy, better than Guerrero. Seriously. He's fucking so damn good at baseball. And to go over to the Chicago Cubs in a division that's weak, that is huge for them.
Yes.
Now, I imagine when they made that trade, there were some hopeful people in that building thinking, this is our guy for the future. He's still young. We got the best years for him could still be on the way. Let's lock him down. Right. But already they are $3 million. Did $3
2.5
$2.5 million off on the arbitration. It's between 17.5. That's what Kyle Tucker's asking for, and $15 million is what the Chicago Cubs are looking at. This to me doesn't feel like a good starting relationship, especially if you want to try to build your team around Kyle Tucker moving forward.
Man, it's so interesting how he even got this number, because if you guys are familiar with arbitration, how it works, it all begins on when you enter your first arbitration. I think it's so dumb.
It's so stupid.
But still, point being said here, he entered his arbitration in 2021 because I believe he's an ARB 4. Sorry, after 2021 he began his ARB because he's the same as Guerrero. So in 2021 he had an OPS of 917, a batting average of 294. He hit 30 home runs and drove in 92 RBIs, stole 14 bases, and I don't have it up right here, but based on where he's going in this projection, he's only getting 17.5. Now, maybe that's because of injury. Maybe they kind of stalled it a little bit. I want to take a look at it, but
that's insane, man.
I think it's crazy that in the entire time he's been in his ARB, let me count it up right here. The entire time he's been in his ARB, calculating, come on, Baseball Reference, he's an OPS of 878, which is better than Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
I know. Yeah, again, arbitration and the rookie contracts in baseball and everything like that, we could have a whole separate podcast just really shitting on all that, because I do think it's extremely stupid. At the end of the day, Kyle Tucker should be a $30 million a year type of guy, just based on how good he is. But with everything that's happened with arbitration, it is silly. Either way, though, I look at $17.5 million for Kyle Tucker, and I think that's a steal.
Oh, God, hell yeah, major steal. Okay, here it is. He first entered arbitration for $5 million, not bad. Jumps up to 12, pretty good. Okay, this is it. He's only an ARB 3 kind of guy, which is another weird thing. It's about service time, and if you get like more service time as a rookie, you get an extra year of him. Stupid. That whole conversation, they didn't do that. They brought him up right away, and that's why he's only $17.5 million. Okay. There you go. So if he had an ARB 4, I think he would have got closer to Vlad's numbers.
Yeah,
right?
So,
because Vlad would have got 19. Point being, I'm digressing right now. But point is, if I'm the Cubs, I'm trading for Kyle Tucker because I want to extend him. Now, the likelihood of you trading for him and then extending him lock away, it is tough because you got to convince him this is a winning ball club. He wants to stay here for a long term, because if I'm Kyle Tucker, I kind of want to test out free agency based on what I'm seeing. You know what I'm saying? So it is going to be tougher, but this is not a good first step for the Cubs, being off by $2.5 million.
Yeah, no, that does make sense, man. I almost wonder if there's like a little bit of a tie-in between him and Guerrero. I wonder what's better for him. Is it better if Guerrero gets extended from the Toronto Blue Jays and isn't on the free agent market? Or is it better if Guerrero is on the free agent market and then it's like they're both up there and then it's like, well, Vladdy got paid $450.
Right? I'm better than him,
right? I wonder what's better for him. How it works out.
I think regardless, maybe it all depends. But either way, I think if Vladdy's going to establish a number for him, and then he's going to play out this season. And then I think it might be better if he's the only one, because then you have all the major teams bidding, whereas if Vladdy's there, you'll have a major team kind of drop out. So maybe, and I guess if you look at it that way, but it's really not a big difference. Either way, Vladdy's going to have a number probably before Kyle Tucker, so you're going to have to base off that anyways.
Yeah, it could be, man. I don't know. It's an interesting thought experiment right there to see if, maybe he's looking at that and wondering if it's all tied up.
Right.
But either way, if I'm the Cubs, $2.5 million more for your best baseball player, because that's what he is. He is your best baseball player. You've already invested a ton to get him here. I think you just got to give him the money in good faith, because you're hoping that, you probably understand he might hit free agency, and that's going to be the case, but you're hoping that he has a good year with you. You make a good impression. Chicago's a great city. I love Chicago. I would love to be on the Chicago Cubs too, historic franchise over there, right? So there's a lot of things that you have going for you, but you don't want to get off on the wrong foot like this, especially with literally your guy. If you're all in with Kyle Tucker, you got to be all in with Kyle Tucker, man. Yeah,
and it's interesting. I'm looking at their payroll, because I know that they were kind of penny pinching a little bit. Last year, they're at 2024, they had $229 million. But this year, their projected is only 149. Now, granted, that's without Kyle Tucker in it, but still, that's well under what they had last year. So it's not even like they're penny pinching. Someone who's a Cubs fan who knows this better than I do, explain.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? Are we just incompetent? We get that over here at Blue Jays today.
I do understand that, quite a bit, right? We've been there before, but either way, that's the drama going on with Kyle Tucker right now. Hopefully they can work that out soon. It feels like the Cubs, I've been trying to find a direction for a couple years right now, and just like missing a little bit. Like they're there, but they're not there.
It's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I also feel like they do.
Yeah, and it does feel though like if you get Kyle Tucker on that baseball team, like that's your direction. Same with the Jays and Vladdy. That's our direction, you know?
For sure.
For you, it's got to be Tucker. Get it done, guys.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their team, too, and they've built a nice rotation.
It's not bad. It's a sneaky good team.
It is a sneaky good team. Think about Shota Imanga. That's how you pronounce his name, I think. Justin Steele, hurt a lot last year, but still a very solid guy. Like, could be a top pitcher. Jameson Tyone's solid. Matthew Boyd, they just brought over right now. So, like, they got a nice... Definitely top 2, and then like a solid, like James and Tyon's like a 3-4, but you know it's a solid rotation enough. The lineup with Ian Happ, Kyle Tucker, Suzuki, Bush was a nice breakout for them last year. Then you got Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, Pico Armstrong, the guy who was like, really it's so
that's
good.
The thing. Like there's a lot of stuff there where if a couple things fall your way, like I could definitely see them walking away with that division. Now I don't know if they're going to be able to compete with the Dodgers or anything like that in the NL. I know it's going to be very, very difficult.
Right.
But even so, like I look at your squad and I think could be a nice, hopeful playoff contender right there if a couple things go your direction. Well, yeah. But you got to having Tucker in there is the difference. For me.
And he will obviously he will be. They have to make a decision eventually. For this year, at least he'll be there. But, I mean, it's right there for the take in the division. The Brewers won 93 games. They'll be good, but they did lose some pieces. Willie Adames, Devin Williams, right? And then the Cubs were tied with the Cardinals at 83 wins. Cardinals are taking a step back here,
guys. Cardinal. I'm shocked they even won that many games.
I know. I'm kind of surprised reading that off. Reds, you never know. They might burst out of nowhere. Maybe the Pirates, who fucking knows? But Cubs you're right there, man. Like, it's between you and the Brewers for the division. So.
Yes, and I do look at that division. I'm like, this is, all things considered, looking around baseball, it's pretty easy compared to some of the other ones that we got to deal with.
Definitely. Absolutely, right? Now, I want to talk about one of the hardest divisions in baseball. I'll make a little transition here over to the NL West. And I'm looking over right now at the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks had a great offseason. Padres are still there, even though the offseason hasn't been as great. But another team, the San Francisco Giants, has been recruiting guys this winter, right? They went out and they got Willie Adames. They locked up Matt Chapman, right? They've been doing some really good stuff. And recently, they locked down Justin Verlander. A little bit of a, not shocker, because I think somebody was going to take a shot at Verlander.
Someone was going to pick him up.
But, like, to go and join the Giants, obviously it's no Corbin Burns, but they got Verlander, who's coming off a very bad year. 17 games started, only a 5.48 ERA in 90 innings. That's not Verlander level. K/9 way down. But he's joining this rotation with Logan Webb, Robbie Ray. Jordan Hicks showed some signs of being a good starting pitcher, and Kyle Harrison. I mean, it's not a phenomenal rotation. Literally, it's like Logan Webb, and then we have a lot of question marks here. What do you think about this?
I think that you're paying $15 million for strong, respectable veteran presence. And I think I genuinely think that like that's kind of what this is. And I think that you got to ask yourself, who's running this baseball operation right now? It's Buster Posey.
Good idea.
Buster Posey is going to have the utmost respect for Justin Verlander and the way that he is going to walk into that pitching rotation and command a room. Now, I don't think that he's going to immediately come back to Cy Young form, but I think you're okay with that. I think, honestly, what you're looking for there is just like you're building out your entire team morale right now. And, of course, you're hoping that he does pitch to a respectable ERA in a couple innings there as well. So I think that it's a bunch of different stuff right there, but I love how Buster Posey is kind of building out this baseball team. It feels like they are all starting to buy, like I would be if I'm a Giants fan, start to buy in on what we're concocting here. We have a group of really talented veteran guys who are all getting together right now and are all, I think that there's just going to be a lot of respect and admiration in that thing, and everyone's going to come to work knowing what our mission is.
Yeah, and I love the window that Buster Posey's been handed to with Lamont Wade Jr. I mean, he's got 5 years service time, but he's solid. He's right in the middle of that lineup. Tyler Fitzgerald had a great year last year. His OPS was 831 in his rookie year. Like, very solid, WAR of 3. I love how they updated this on Fangraphs. Gotta love that. Heliot Ramos, he was solid, 792 OPS in his first year. Like
they got pieces there.
They got good pieces. And like when you think about good baseball players, like I do think about Willie Adames. I do think about Matt Chapman, just overall great players. And I'm excited to see. Like, honestly, like, I don't think they're going to, obviously, I don't think, I'd actually bet my life they're not going to win the division because you got the Dodgers there. They're going to smash that division. But maybe a wild card. Maybe they're on the fringe. Maybe they go make a run. Maybe they get hot and everything clicks because they're playing good baseball, which is, I think, what Buster Posey is going to instill in this organization.
Like, I look at that team, and I'll be honest, I see a boring baseball team that is going to win game. You're going to look at it, you're going to be like, how are they winning games? And they're going to be doing the shit that's just like so routine that you don't even notice that they're doing it.
Great defense.
But that's the thing. They're going to do it so much better than everyone else, and it's you're going to be like, how is this squad winning all these ball games? And it's just happening, right? And that's what Buster Posey is building there. And you know what? Like when you look at the Yankees last year, and you look at, well, why did they lose the World Series? It's because all that stuff they didn't do. You know, they
terrible
baseball.
Exactly.
They could. You know, it's just like
just horrible
stuff like base running mistakes and defensive errors and, you know, mental miscues.
Not covering the bag over at first.
It's just like all of these little things that, you know, when you're watching good baseball, you don't even notice.
Yeah.
It's automatically there. It's going to be automatically there with these San Francisco Giants. So I think they're going to do better than some people expect.
Yeah, like absolutely. And I'm trying to think of other teams that be kind of fighting for that wild card. Obviously, you got the Diamondbacks, Padres in their own division fighting for it. You're obviously over there on the East.
I could literally see, I could see the NL West pulling like an NFC North from football this year. Where it's like, you know, you got like the Dodgers right up there as one of the best teams in the NL. Right behind them, it's like you got the Arizona Diamondbacks or like the Padres, and then it's like you got the Giants in the mix. I could genuinely see like 4 playoff teams out of that fucking division.
Do you remember the AL East in 2021? Of course you do.
Yes,
I know you do.
Yes, that was
the
crazy.
Blue Jays came fourth with 91 games and missed playoffs. Like the Red Sox 92 wins, the Yankees 92 wins, the Rays had 100 wins that season. That's wild. Like this could happen, and the Orioles got 52. That will be your Rockies.
That will be your Rockies. That'll be your Chicago Bears right there.
Exactly right.
Like, it's always got to be one.
It's got to be one that all these other teams are going to just beat the hell out of. You know what I mean? So it's very possible. Now again, like I was saying, like it is tougher because you do got a good. Then this is where like the Blue Jays, they lost a wild card spot because there's another division in that league, which I'm talking about for the Giants is the NL East, which you got the Phillies, Mets, Braves. Like there's at least 2 teams going to be fighting for wild card there. There's 3 teams over here in the West. Sorry, Central, just 1 in your division.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
Yeah,
so you'll have like 5 teams fighting right now. Maybe the Cubs, maybe Brewers are in the mix too. But yeah, it's a really competitive
NL is a lot better than the AL. I'll tell you
way
that.
better.
You know, like
better.
If I had to bet my life on who's winning the World Series, I just go National League.
National League. I'm not betting on American League.
Yeah, because it just feels like if you can make it through that gauntlet of teams, right? And even if you're not the Dodgers, well, that means that you had to beat the Dodgers.
Right.
And if you had to beat them,
then
like
you're really
you can beat
good.
anybody, right? Like if you can make it out of that whole thing, then I mean, like the cakewalk of an American League that team that got there. I feel like they're just not going to be weathered enough to be able to handle it.
That's what I was saying about the Yankees last year because it feels like the Yankees are destined to go back to the World Series again this year because it's like you faced the Royals and then the Guardians and you just walked all over and then all of a sudden you got just destroyed by the Dodgers. Like you didn't even have to face that stiff competition like the Dodgers. So
that's the thing. Listen, I'll tell you right now, everybody, those football fans out there, I understand that the Green Bay Packers are not favorited to beat the Eagles and everything like that. But as the 7th seed on the road, if we make it to the Super Bowl, we're going to win the Super Bowl. That means that you had to go through the Eagles, the Lions, probably the Vikings on the road to get there. So
face the Chiefs.
There's something to be said for, kind of being in that spot. Because if you can actually make it through, by the time you get there, it's like, fuck, what's this? This is nothing. We can handle this with our eyes closed.
You're locked in, right?
That's the thing.
Like you have to be locked in.
Exactly.
So we'll see what happens there. It should be good baseball, honestly, all season long, and we're almost there. Final conversation is about Brent Rooker. Now, again, that happened like Tuesday morning or I think like Monday night for those on the West Coast. But a lot of people were shocked to see that Brent Rooker extended his contract with the A's for $60 million over 5 years. Yeah. I personally was shocked. I was like, what are you doing, Brent Rooker? You couldn't have got any more money than that. Granted, it is the A's, but why don't you go wait for free agency? Well, he wasn't going to be a free agent until age 33, which is in 2028. He's already 30 years old. So if you really think about it, okay, if I'm 33 years old and I got to put up continue these good years for another 3 years. How much am I going to get paid when I'm 33 years old, really? You know what I mean? Because that's what it comes down to me, like $60 million?
So when I first saw that contract, I was like, holy shit, what is this? This is terrible. You got fleeced. But then upon hearing the fact that, okay, well, actually, he was several years away from hitting free agency, and then by the time that he was going to hit free agency, guy's going to be kind of old, you know?
Kind of old.
You don't know if you're going to still be that good at that point. By that point, like, fuck, you could be living in Sacramento. It's like you've been moved around so much. Like, you're tired. It's like, that sucks, right? You have no idea. So, I honestly, man, like, it feels like a steal of a deal because it kind of is. But it's also like Brent Rooker is cashing in on, you know, a really solid couple seasons that he's put together right now. Yeah. He has sadly signed his soul away to be on the Athletics for the remainder of his career. Yeah. So, sorry, dude. Hey, I don't think you're ever touching playoffs. Hey, but $60 million is okay.
To his credit, I mean, he actually made a tweet about this. He's very active on Twitter, by the way. He's like, I'm very excited about like what they're building. And I guess like if you really think about it, like the historic franchise that the Athletics are, you're going to be part of this like new rebuild where by the end of your contract, you could be in Vegas. This whole new area. You get to go through that with the fan base, be a legend there, and retire as an Athletic.
Tell you right now, it can't get any worse.
Yeah,
you've already hit rock bottom, and if you're perfectly content with rock bottom, then okay, I guess it's actually gonna go up from here for you. You know?
Right.
So in that regard, it's like credit to Brent Rooker. I guess the one thing that kind of sucks is like now the trade conversation and speculation that's done.
It's over.
Probably not going to be getting traded anytime soon, unless we're a couple 2 years from now and he's still playing good baseball. He's probably going to be an Oakland Athletic or a Sacramento Athletic or just Athletic for life at this point. But honestly, good job on the Athletics for seeing that opportunity and for snatching it up.
Oh yeah, I mean honestly, the Athletics had not a terrible offseason for the Athletics.
Listen, this is how you know that the Blue Jays have had a rough fucking offseason because the Athletics have been doing more stuff than the Jays have.
Yes.
That's got to be like the litmus test every time or the line. If you're a fan of a team who's done less than the Athletics, who don't even have a home, I mean, I think you know how the winner's gone.
Yeah, like obviously they got the extended Brent Rooker, as we were just talking about. They went and they got Luis Severino. That's going to be their ace. They actually also just got Jeffrey Springs. Am I reading that? How did they get Jeffrey Springs? He was on the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know how he traded in December. Wow, I completely missed this. They traded for Jeffrey Springs.
They signed some infielder too, I thought, as well. Did they not?
They just signed, Gio Urshela.
Yes, Gio Urshela.
Okay, this is their lineup. Lawrence Butler's a pretty good player. He had a good year. Brent Rooker, J.J. Bleday, 762 OPS, solid. Shea Langoliers kind of falls off after here. Now, everyone after Tyler.
They're not going to be good. No. But like honestly, respect for going out and picking up guys. And I don't love Urshela. I don't love Severino. Honestly, like they're not phenomenal. But the fact of the matter is, they have been more active than several other ball clubs.
100%.
And
one of the Padres, Jays, like you're saying.
Literally, if you are one of those teams that's been less active than them, pick up your socks, go to work, because that's not a good look, boys.
Yo, I kind of, again, like I'm not saying they're like going to win or anything, but I kind of have a little bit of respect for those Athletics right now. They earn my respect. Like, hey, your front office did something.
Which they very rarely do.
They very rarely do. And you did enough. You did what you kind of the ceiling of what an organization like yourself should do. Extend your core player because you're not winning right now, Blue Jays, and then go add like a pitcher to help you get through the season.
There you go.
Blue Jays. Right? Yep. Good job, Athletics. Good offseason for you guys. If you do anything else, it's a definite win.
Definite win right there. But, folks, that's going to be the end of our Bad for Baseball episode. Let us know your thoughts about all this in the comments down below. If you haven't already done so, please hit the like and subscribe to the channel. If we can't get back our Blue Jays Today channel, which, again, I'm very hopeful that we can, but if we can't, this is all we got, everybody. So if you're enjoying the coverage at all, please subscribe. It would mean the world for us, everybody. And also, if you do know anyone from Google or from YouTube, have any connection there, seriously, even if it's the faintest connection, please do not hesitate to reach out on our socials or comment down below or anything like that. Blue Jays Today on Instagram and on Twitter and on TikTok and everything like that. Any support is appreciated.
Guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.